Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 881. Resolution. Mei Shuayan finally slowly woke up after some time. The first thing she did was to lock her eyes on the heaven-earth spirit vein before carefully stroking the huge rock with her jade-like hand as if it would shatter with even a bit more force. Don't worry. Even if you give it your full blow, there won't even be a single crack. Jun Moxie reminded her as he saw her hilarious action. Shush! Mei Shuayan glared at him before indulging back into her own immense joy. Her beautiful eyes curled like a crescent as she asked dreamingly, Moxie, how long does it take for a heaven-earth spirit vein of this size to form? How long? Let me see, the formation of a hollow blue rock milk takes tens of thousands of years. For all of it to transform into heaven-earth holy milk, it would be another hundreds of thousands of years. As for the formation of spirit veins and the production of the golden jade fluid, it will take at least another 1,000,000 years. For this spirit vein, it should be around 6 million years old. 6 million years? She was astonished. 6 million years. Unbelievably long. It might even be longer. I simply estimated, and there can be an error of hundreds of thousands of years, Jun Moxie explained. Does this mean that even the dust scraped off the stone can act as holy medicine? Mei Shuayan asked hurriedly. Jun Moxie nodded. Yes. It's a medicine with a side effect that a normal human cannot withstand. Even the dust will be an equivalent to top-quality hollow blue rock milk. My goodness. Waha. At this moment, Mei Shuayan's usual demureness was nowhere to be found. She leaped and cheered before suddenly grabbing Jun Moxie by his collar. All Jun Moxie could feel afterwards was a session of fanatic shaking which ended with a solid punch onto his abdomen that sent him flying backwards while he was still baffled. However, this wasn't the end as Mei Shuayan continued to treat him with fists and kicks. Jun Moxie really had some difficulties shielding himself from all the fists. When he guarded his head, he would be kicked on his talk. He couldn't help regretting slightly. What on earth is this? How could I have known that such a demure girl would become so violent when she was excited? If it isn't for the fact that I'm stronger than her, I'm sure I can't handle a girl like this. It's reasonable to vent out anger by hitting something. But beating others due to sheer happiness is simply strange. Jun Moxie had no choice but to shield his handsome face and his groin area and sacrifice everywhere else. Needless to say, one for facing others and the other for facing his wives. Finally, her elated emotions wore off as she gradually stopped hitting. She was a bit embarrassed as she saw Jun Moxie's awkward posture. Moxie, are you all right? Jun Moxie held back the desire to cry out loud from the aches all over him as he removed his hand, revealing a pig-like, swollen face which twitched as he said with a sobbing tone, "What do you think?" "Well, since you can still speak properly, I think you are." There was still a trace of excitement in her voice. "Hurry up and tell me more about this golden jade fluid. I'm sure it has an amazing effect." "No. What if you hit me again?" "I promise not to." "I don't believe you." "What do you want me to do so that you will believe me?" "You can sleep with me tonight?" You pervert." It was then another session of beating. Afterwards, Pig-head Jun was finally a gentleman. It took a while for them to calm down from these sessions of high-intensity exercise. Mei Shuayan asked him softly, "Moxie, are you going to open it so that we can drink the golden jade fluid to increase our power to cope with the bad situation we're facing now?" Yes, that was on my mind. But I have some concerns. Jun Moxie rubbed his face and the swollen parts magically healed beneath his palm. What's your concern? Wastage? Mei Shuayan knew that wasting such precious medicine would be very sinful. No, it's not about that. This is meant to be consumed. So what if there is a bit of waste? I'm just uncertain about the side effects. I don't know if we can withstand it. Furthermore, it's the only thing that can be consumed without refining and still produce the full effect. But this also means that there's no way to neutralize it so that it's less invasive. If we can't withstand its effects, our souls will be shattered. There would be no remedy. If we can withstand it, will it greatly increase our power? Mei Shuayan asked curiously. As long as we can absorb all the medicine properly, we will go all the way to the top. We will be able to reach the level of a saint emperor or even higher. The stronger the consumer, the better the effects of the medicine. We practice the art of unlocking heaven's fortune, which is one of the best techniques out there. So I dare to think about this method. If it's others who only practice Xian Qi, I speculate that even a saint emperor's can't withstand its effects. That's very invasive. Mei Shuayan's eyes widened in amazement. Seeing that she was getting excited again, Jun Moxie couldn't help shiver. He inconspicuously moved away from her a bit before continuing. The biggest problem now is that we only need one droplet each for us. But there are so much of it here. So how are we going to keep the rest? If we just leave it here, it will soon evaporate and disappear. That will be a huge waste. Can we contain it with jade bottles? Mei Shuayan suggested. No. Even if the bottle is made of spirit jade, all the fluid will evaporate in around an hour. In that case, maybe we should just leave it here and come back when we have a way to preserve it. Although Mei Shuayan was desperate to increase her power, she still could not reckon the idea of wasting all this medicine just for 2 drops of it. Actually, there might be a way. It's just that I'm not 100% sure. Jun Moxie was considering using the flame of primal chaos to seal the opening immediately after cutting open the spirit vein. However, what he was not certain about was that the power of the flame of primal chaos seemed to be too aggressive. What if he destroyed all the fluid instantaneously instead? Also, the fact that the flame of primal chaos would be able to seal the opening was just a speculation in the first place. However, the situation they were facing now did not allow them to turn back. So finally, Jun Moxie decided to give it a try. If they left this place without increasing their power, it would even be a bigger waste. Jun Moxie laid out his palm and a dazzling longsword popped out from thin air onto his hand. The blood of yellow flame. It was now a very special sword that couldn't even be obtained in the heavens. Jun Moxie built the foundation of the sword with gold transmuted from ordinary metal. He then used the essence of metal to refine it. Next, the sword devoured thousands of kilograms of gold. Finally, it absorbed hundreds of 9 nether frost blades. It could be said that the best materials from Earth, Xian and 9 nether, were used to produce this sword. Despite its small appearance, it weighed up to 250 kilograms. No ordinary man could lift it up. It gained spiritual senses and absorbed the blood of Jun Moxie. Therefore, it only weighed like an ordinary sword to him. If someone else tried to lift it, even if he were as strong as Big Bear, he would not succeed. Shuayan, give me some space. With sword in hand, Jun Moxie made the decision. There would be no turning back. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 882. Experiment. So what if we are destroying something precious? So what if it might all go to waste? If we can't even get past this danger we are about to face, then how can we talk about the future? Mei Shuayan moved aside as instructed. She had just moved away when she saw a stroke of chilling lightning come down. The moment the body of the blood of yellow flame came in contact with the other layer of the heaven-earth spirit vein, it was like a hot knife slicing through a piece of frozen butter. Whoosh! The outermost chunk of the spirit vein, about the length of a palm, silently broke off and fell with a poo. This was the outermost portion, so even if it was cut in such a clumsy and rough manner, it would not affect or harm the golden jade fluid on the inside. So Jun Moxie had no reservations. Jun Moxie activated the power of water, condensing the spiritual qi in the air of the Hongjun pagoda right above his head instantly, converging into an azure stream of water that descended downwards. At the same time, Jun Moxie skillfully made a small hole on the side that had been cut with the blood of yellow flame. All the condensed spiritual qi filled perfectly right up to its brim. Although the portion of the length that was cut was about the length of a palm, its horizontal breadth was almost 3 zhang long. And that small hole was a few meters deep, which was enough for Jun Moxie to experiment. Mei Shuayan watched him with her eyes wide open, but she saw Jun Moxie lifting his hand with burning resolution and ordering, "Flame of primal chaos, appear." Then, on Jun Moxie's fingertip, a pitch-black flame appeared with a paw, dancing gently and silently. Jun Moxie inhaled a deep breath, then exerted his strength. The flame of primal chaos instantly got bigger and burnt brilliantly. Then Jun Moxie placed this black-colored flame into that cut surface at lightning speed. The side of the spirit vein that was cut instantly melted, turning into a layer of shiny fluid that slowly flowed downwards, slowly gluing up the entire tiny opening. Jun Moxie heaved a sigh of relief as he extinguished the flame of primal chaos from his fingers. He stretched out his hand to wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. How could Jun Moxie not be nervous? If the experiment this time succeeded, then the golden jade fluid would practically become a treasure that he could help himself to as and when he wished. No matter when he wished to use it, he only needed to stick a needle into this sealed opening and allow a couple of drips to flow out. Then, he would seal it back up in the same manner and everything will be good. But if this experiment failed ultimately, then, this plan for upgrading their strength this time would have to be put on hold temporarily for the better. Looking at that broken piece of spirit vein that was already sealed up, Jun Moxie took in another deep breath and the shining flash of sword light came cutting down again. The sword descended. Newly formed heaven-earth spiritual qi condensed into sparkling fluid, flowing out of the two pieces that were just broken, drip by drip, then instantly transforming into misty spiritual qi that dissipated into the air. It worked. Jun Moxie panted, his eyes gleaming. It worked. Mei Shuayan did not dare to believe it. Did it really work? Are you sure? This is something unusual. If there are any errors. There are no ifs anymore. Jun Moxie exclaimed happily, interrupting her. The reason why I did not use regular water, but wasted my energy to convert spiritual qi into water all for the sake of preventing this if. Even if the golden jade fluid is a fluid formed from heaven and earth spiritual qi, it is a lot more concentrated than the average spiritual fluids and has an even more amazing change within it. But no matter how it changes, its original state will not change. In other words, it'll ultimately still be a fluid. Unusually fervently glow emitted from Jun Moxie's eyes as he looked at the giant heaven-earth spirit vein. The experiment today is extremely meaningful and significant. This experiment has shown that the Jun family shall begin to rise from now on and will not fall forever. Jun Moxie said slowly. The spiritual qi in the Hongjun Pagoda is 1,000 times more concentrated than the outside. The heaven-earth spirit vein will develop even faster in here. And the golden jade fluid within will only grow more and more. It is more than enough to last the descendants of the Jun family for ages to come. As long as they bring their cultivation level to a suitable level, then borrow the effects of the golden jade fluid, they will be able to rapidly advance to a saint emperor or even higher. Indeed, as long as you remain here, the Jun family will continue to be glorious forever. Mei Shuayan had a hazy look in her eye, but she raised a sharp question. But, are you really able to? Aside from you, who else in the Jun family is capable to use this sword of yours to open the heaven-earth spirit vein and is capable of using the flame of primal chaos to mend the opening? Even if there is someone like this, are they able to have this Hongjun Pagoda? Jun Moxie was stunned. You're right. I was too excited and had forgotten this important point. But I will do my best to remain here until the day I have no other choice but to leave. He mumbled after a long while. Mei Shuayan's words were essentially talking about the fate of mankind. In her heart, even the most powerful legend would not be able to escape death. She had merely raised this fact in an obscure manner. But what Jun Moxie was thinking of was a completely different matter. In his previous life, he had never believed that there were immortals, or ghosts, or demons, or immortality and longevity. But in this life, especially after obtaining the Hongjun Pagoda, he believed it. The reality was right before his eyes. How could he not believe in it? If my strength reaches a level where this world can no longer accommodate me, then I definitely will have to leave. The Nine-Nether First young master left this place since he was probably sick of it, but also because his own strength was too overwhelming. Maybe all those legends about people suddenly rising up to heavens in the day were perhaps real existences. Who knows? From the 2 broken pieces of the spirit vein, Jun Moxie picked up one of them and cut a piece closest to its center out of it, about the size of a palm. He handed it to Mei Shuayan. You keep this piece. If there comes a day where I am not by your side and you are injured, just scrap some powder with a small knife. Mix it with water and drink it. This piece is already showing some characteristics of soft jade. It is a quality good that is similar to the heaven-earth holy milk. Mei Shuayan responded and carefully carried that piece of jade in her arms. Jun Moxie was amused by how careful she was being and couldn't help but chuckle. There's also no need to do that careful. This is just a temporary stopgap measure. There may not be a time where you and I have to be separated. Even if we are not together for a couple of days, you may not sustain injuries anyway. There is no absolute in this world. There will always be someone who will be injured. Surviving in this world, especially for high-level experts like us, has gone beyond the restrictions of the legal systems. It has always been survival of the fittest. Passing through every day between life and death, there's no logic in not getting injured. Mei Shuayan lightly sighed, her mood a little down. She forced a smile and said, the laws of humankind and Xian beasts. The both of us have already gone past them now. Indeed, that is how the world is. Jun Moxie said. Humans are really a weird kind of species. Before humans came into the world, everyone had to obey the rules of the jungle natural selection, survival of the fittest. The strong fed on the weak. Although it was cruel, but it was also the fairest. But after the appearance of humans, they started to fight for power. For what? It was all for the sake of unification, for their desires. Laws came about under this premise. The appearance of laws was originally for the sake of letting everyone be equal, and also for the country to be easily managed. But after laws were implemented, the ones who were restricted are still those at the bottom, the weak and powerless, and equality is only obtained between the weak, and merely the weak. He let out a deep sigh and continued. Ironically, it is after obtaining a certain power or position that the rules will no longer abide by the basic laws, but return back to that ancient law of the jungle. The strong survives. The weak perishes. Take the fight between the Jun family and Li family in Tianxiang country, for example. Or the fights between the various families in the capital. The laws of the country, are it really effective? The most crucial thing is still which of these family is more powerful and influential. That's all. As to the dispute between the strong like the Holy Lands and Tianfa, it is the case of the strong devouring the weak. In other words, humans, regardless of strength or power, when they achieved a certain level and position, would undergo a complete change and turn into wild beasts. Which makes me curious. Then all the blood that was sacrificed in the scramble for power to become civilized, or implement so-called peaceful laws, in the end, what was it all for? What meaning is there to it? Is it all for the sake of returning back to the law of the jungle at the end? Mei Shuayan laughed. I didn't expect you to have so many feelings on this matter. Feelings? Not necessarily. But I really do have my thoughts and confusion. But it's a pity. It seems no one can give me the answer to my questions. Jun Moxie laughed bitterly. Thinking of all these matters, the world is really fecked up. The ones that really need fairness and equality are unable to get it. But those that have it will ultimately abandon all of it. Don't you think it's funny? It's not funny. Not funny at all. Mei Shuayan chuckled and said. Actually, there is never fairness in the world. In the past, a wise person once said, the prince will be punished by the same law that governs the people if they were to commit an offense. But one thing was not made clear in this sentence. And that is that laws are determined by people. Be it the person who created this law or the person who is carrying it out. They all enjoy a certain extent of privilege. And these are the rules. And this rule is the same as the Beast King privilege in the Tianfa forest. Mei Shuayan chuckled charmingly. The strong devouring the weak happens practically every day in Tianfa forest. And us, the kings, will never interfere or ask about it. We just let it happen. But there is only one rule, there cannot be any battles between species. We don't care about anything else. But if there is a conflict between the beast kings, the battle between the species will just take place if they want, even if it is against the law. The law still has effect. But we look at who was the one breaking it. Naturally, the kings of Tianfa forest can be unrestrained by the laws they decided. Actually, mankind is just another group of Xian beasts. A even bigger Tianfa forest. That's all. Just that the privileged Xian beast kings enjoy are acknowledged by all the Xian beasts. If you are not stronger, then you have nothing to say. And every Xian beast, as long as they work hard, will be able to reach this position. So all of them have hope. But humans, these privileges are not disclosed nor admitted, or rather, they are also don't admit to their own privilege so they can continue playing the role of the law-abiding citizen. But that is just hypocritical and shameless. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 883. Risky Advancement. Ha ha ha. Well said. Humans are indeed another bunch of Xian beasts. In fact, they're not even comparable to Xian beasts. They are not even as sincere nor loyal like Xian beasts. They're just a bunch of wild beasts who are well developed in their brains but harbor despicable thoughts. Jun Moxie laughed heartily. Law? Laws will be broken. One day, I will create a law that belongs to Jun Moxie in this world. I want to be that person who creates and determines the laws, never the vermin that is restricted by the restraints of the laws. If it is really up to you to determine the laws of this world, then I really can't imagine how absurd this world would turn into. Mei Shuayan laughed bitterly. Let's not talk about those faraway dreams that we are nowhere near to. Let's focus on getting through this ordeal before us first. You are being unreasonable by saying that. Some things must be made thoroughly clear beforehand. Jun Moxie chuckled and plopped down on his bum. With a grin in his eyes, he said, as long as we are able to successfully pull through the advancement this time, when we show ourselves again in the world with our suddenly increased powers, we will absolutely be facing the direct fighting with the three holy lands. This time, it is a relatively big and decisive battle. After this battle, no matter how it ends, the three holy lands will absolutely stop sending people to find trouble for us before the war for seizing the heavens is over. If we ultimately win this battle, or even completely crush them, the three holy lands will no longer have any certainty in the war for seizing the heavens. And even when compared to the strange races in terms of their own strength, they will fall into a greater disadvantageous position due to the great decrease in their forces. Mei Shuayan said worriedly. This battle, if we win, will be dangerous for the war for seizing the heavens. If we lose, we will fall into eternal damnation. This is extremely contradicting. Contradicting? Is there really any contradiction that cannot be resolved? Not necessarily. Jun Moxie laid on the ground, hugging the back of his head leisurely. Things are different from the past now. Now, all of the beast kings of Tianfa are almost reaching the level of venerable in their strength. And the heaven destroyer and spirit devourer that I painstakingly nurtured, although slightly weaker, but are more or less similar in strength. After this battle, as long as you bring the piece of the spirit vein I gave you back to Tianfa forest, then use its powder to mix with spring water for all of them to drink, it will definitely allow all of them to leap in their strength again. And I believe, even though the leap this time won't be as great to let all of them advance to saints, but it will definitely be significant. At the very least, it gives them the strength and right to partake in the war for seizing the heavens. Jun Moxie smiled. If we lose this battle, then we probably won't make it out alive. Then, we can forget about everything else. But if we ultimately win this battle, and the three holy lands are crippled due to us, then we will naturally not refuse the duty of the war for seizing the heavens that concerns the future of Xian continent. Even if we have to force our way breaking through, I will also create a batch of experts to thoroughly annihilate the strange races, so that Xian continent will never have any fecked up matters like the war for seizing the heavens. And I will not allow anyone else to use this glorious mission as an excuse to do all those despicable, shameless things. Besides, there is more than one way to advance our strength. I do have ways. Jun Moxie snorted. You intend to directly annihilate the entire strange races? Mei Shuayan asked, her eyes sparkling. Of course. That sort of trash. If it can be completely annihilated, why are we keeping them around? Do you have any objections? Jun Moxie said bewildered. How could I have objections? If those bastardly strange races can really be exterminated for good, then it'll definitely be for the best. Since you have such confidence, determination, and great ambitions, then let's play a fierce one with the 3 holy lands this time. Mei Shuayan said excitedly. Jun Moxie knew that Mei Shuayan was ultimately most concerned about the war for seizing the heavens. This topic was not only a major thing to Mei Shuayan, it was a deep-rooted one that would definitely not be changed in a short time. So before this huge battle, young Master Jun wanted to leave Mei Shuayan feeling extremely reassured about the future. Anyway, I already have this sort of power right now. I'm not exactly talking big. And I detested those filthy strange races the most. Perhaps even more than the people from the 3 holy lands. So even if they're really completely annihilated, it doesn't matter. Shuayan, are you ready? Jun Moxie lifted up the blood of yellow flame. A cold gleam was already radiating from the tip of the sword. I'm ready. Mei Shuayan nodded her head heavily. When my sword descends, you must immediately collect the golden jade fluid that leaves immediately. There must be no delays in between. The moment I bring my sword down, I will activate the flame of primal chaos at the same time to heal up the opening. If there are any delays in between, it will result in large amount of golden jade fluid going to waste. I believe you understand the importance of the golden jade fluid, so there must be no mistakes. Jun Moxie slowly lifted his sword. The divine sword above his head was already spitting out white sword light that was a dozen zhang. Don't worry. Mei Shuayan stared at the main body of the spirit vein without blinking, completely focused. A dense swirl of spiritual qi was brewing in both of her palms. After a few rounds of tossing and turning under the pressure of her skills, 2 small jade bottles were formed. Making a jade bottle from heaven-earth spiritual qi. Just to collect the golden jade fluid. Right now. Jun Moxie hollered. Moving swiftly. Jun Moxie utilized all the strength of his body, channeling it all onto the body of the sword. The sword descended. At the smooth opening that was cut, drops of tiny, purple, sparkling fluid began to flow out. The entire Hongjun pagoda was instantly filled with an indescribable fragrance. The 2 of them felt completely at ease and comfortable just from smelling it. At the instant the golden jade fluid was about to drip out, Mei Shuayan had already zoomed past like a bolt of lightning. It's done. She had barely finished her words when a wall of pitch-black flame covered up that tiny opening of the main body of the spirit vein. Under the silent burning process, the opening on the heaven-earth spirit vein, which was originally extremely hard, melted quickly and flowed down, sealing up that opening which was about the size of a thumb perfectly. Jun Moxie chuckled satisfactorily. His sword instantly returned back into its sheath and vanished without a trace. The spiritual qi inside the Hongjun pagoda had instantly become denser and thicker. Their coordination earlier was already impeccable, but there was still a few drops of golden jade fluid that dripped onto the ground, instantly turning into immense heaven-earth spiritual qi that filled up the Hongjun pagoda. And this time, the 2 bottles made out of pure spiritual qi in Mei Shuayan's palms were already showing signs of melting. As if the 2 drops of golden jade fluid inside were alive. The purple radiance got more and more brilliant. That bottle was clearly no longer able to withstand the pressure being released from within. No time for delays or hesitation. Use it instantly. Steady your heart to break through the bottleneck. Jun Moxie said resolutely. He took one of the bottles and swallowed the entire thing, including the bottle, into his stomach with no hesitation. And Mei Shuayan did the same thing. The moment the bottle made from spiritual qi entered the stomach, the outer layer of spiritual qi quickly dissipated and the golden jade fluid within also began to take effect. Hong! Jun Moxie, only left like an immense surge of energy, came exploding from his dantian like a tsunami, rushing through every single cell in his body. He tried to stop it mentally, but it had no effect at all. Shut. Although he had already overestimated the effectiveness of that spirit energy, but from the looks of it now, he had still misjudged it. An essence of heaven-earth spiritual qi that had been condensed after millions of years, its effectiveness was shocking as expected. It was really too massive. Jun Moxie yelled. Come. Let's join our palms. Left advancing, right retreating, circulating the Xian qi as it grows and multiplies without end. Yin and yang complement each other, forming ourselves into heaven and earth. He came flying over to before Mei Shuayan as he spoke, sitting down cross-legged. Mei Shuayan felt like she was being tormented from the immense strength of the golden jade fluid, as if her body was on the verge of exploding, gradually losing her senses. But she more or less understood Jun Moxie's meaning. Using her last bit of control, she compelled herself to stretch her palms forward to meet with Jun Moxie's, the both of them activating their Xian qi at the same time. The spirit energies that came from the same source instantly merged as one, turning the body of these two people into a giant circle, looping back and forth repeatedly. This meant that aside from the internal circulation within their bodies, there were two additional paths available for the flow. Exiting from Jun Moxie's left palm and entering Mei Shuayan's right. And the same time, the spirit energy inside Mei Shuayan exited from her left palm, entered Jun Moxie's right. Hong! A loud explosion came out from both their dantian, as if it was exploding in their hearts, in their minds. The 2 drops of golden jade fluid were finally taking full effect, exploding simultaneously within their bodies. The unimaginable, massive spirit energy rushed out of their dantian in an unbridled manner, like a tsunami, like a mountain flash flood. Their bodies were practically at their limits at the same time, brimming with spirit energy on the verge of bursting out of their bodies. And this was only the beginning. But this mere beginning had already driven both of them unconscious. Only their 4 palms were still joined together, the spirit energy in their bodies rushing into their meridians like a gushing river, filling up all of their bodies, then transferring into the other party's body through their linked palms, triggering off a more intense spirit energy storm, growing stronger with each repeated circulation. The 2 of them had already lost their awareness, merely circulating the boundless spirit energy in their bodies out of reflex. But this sort of subconscious circulation only caused the spirit energy storm to become more and more violent. The skin of their bodies were already showing signs of splitting open due to the massive spirit energy, and bumps formed under their almost translucent skin. Their veins were also gradually popping up, turning from green to blood red in color. The tendons of their muscles were also popping up on the surface of the skin. Tiny, visible patterned veins begin to slowly appear on the surface of their skin. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 884. The prologue begins. This sign clearly showed that the effects of that drip of golden jade fluid was not what these 2 people could bear, or even greatly beyond the limits of their endurance. The current situation was undoubtedly extremely dangerous, and as long as any one of them was unable to bear this violent surge of spirit energy, they would bring the other person down along with them, exploding into smithereens at the same time. And right now, the 2 of them formed a circle loop for the energy with their palms, and the violent spirit energy was still circulating rapidly. They were also unable to separate anymore. This was a moment of crisis that hangs by a thread, gradually surrounding the 2 of their bodies, protecting them. As if, with a tad of unwillingness. This was Jun Moxie's cleverness. He had long predicted that if the two of them really were unable to endure it and exploded to death, at that final moment, the Hongjun Pagoda would definitely protect its owner. But it would only protect himself and wouldn't be bothered with Mei Shuiyan's life or death. So the moment he noticed that something might go wrong, he joined his body with Mei Shuiyan's into a double cultivation, combining the spirit energy of them both into a single entity. In this way, if the Hongjun Pagoda wants to save him, then it would also have to save Mei Shuiyan. If it doesn't save me, does it dare? So young Master Jun had brazenly set this advancement operation into motion entirely because he had a strong backing like Hongjun Pagoda. Or else, why would Jun Moxie dare to rashly use the golden jade fluid which could cause even an immortal to explode and die? He wasn't that sick of living. Naturally, he mustn't tell Mei Shuiyan the complete truth. Otherwise this girl would definitely not let him take the risk. And she also doesn't really know how certain I am. Let's complete the advancement first. Let it be done and cannot be changed first. Then see how it goes. Time seemed to creep past slowly. It had already been 7 whole days since the Chen family was completely annihilated. The Chrysanthemum City was extremely peaceful, maintaining its bustling sight as before. And it was not like no one had noticed that the once powerful Chrysanthemum City was completely gone without a trace. But definitely no one imagined that the talk of Chrysanthemum City, the Chen family, had already completely perished with great hatred. The manor of the Chen family had already been taken into possession by Zhan Mu Bai and the rest, living unusually calm and peaceful. These people had spent hundreds of years killing and massacring. Killing a couple of people for the sake of the 3 holy lands meant that it was for the sake of the future of humans, for the future of Xian continent. And everything was in the name of justice. It was open and candid. So what if we killed some people? And what's more, a subservient family like a lowly servant? If they're killed, then they're killed. And they were already used to staying in the place of the victim after killing them. So if there was anything they found displeasing, it was probably the fact that there were no servants at their disposal. So they had to do everything on their own. But to experts like them who had retreated from the secular world, the lavishness of the human world was nothing to be attached to. Of course, not everyone was so at ease with themselves. One person was tormented during this entire period. And this was Qiao Ying. This powerful, highly skilled all-seeing Rakshasa had lost tremendous weight during these 7 days. The other people could remain self-righteous and have no qualms. Eating, drinking and sleeping, with no feelings of uneasiness. But Qiao Ying couldn't. The great beauty Qiao had the all-seeing eye, and effect of the all-seeing eye this time was even more clearer this time. And the news it brought back was 100% negative. Qiao Ying only needed to open her eyes to see the ghosts of the Chen family, wailing, criticizing, and crying tears of blood. Every night, there were countless of spirits weaving around, angrily condemning the people from the Holy Lands. Especially the room of Zhan Mu Bai. Inside and outside, it was packed with people. But their enemy was too powerful. As humans, they had no way to put up any form of resistance. Now that they were ghosts, there was still nothing they could do. The powerful Xian Qi of saint-level experts were the bane of spirits' existence. As long as they went near, they would be in danger of having their souls scattered anytime. Other people couldn't see it, but it didn't mean that Qiao Ying couldn't. And not only could she see it, she could hear it too. But she had no suitable measures to take. If she were a cruel person, she only needed to allow her powerful Xian Qi from her body to explode out and allow these ghosts to be thoroughly destroyed. But how could the kind-hearted her do that? Besides, Zhan Mu Bai was in the wrong for this whole matter. so she could only watch those countless ghosts float about and cry in anguish. Actually, if Qiao Ying shut off her all-seeing eye, she wouldn't have to see anything. But, after seeing and listening to everything once, who could resist it? Even if they felt bitterly disappointed the more they watched, there was the irresistible urge to continue looking. And during this period of time, through observing these wronged souls one-sidedly, Qiao Ying thoroughly understood the true reason the Chen family was annihilated. This left her furious at what Zhan Mubai had done. The people involved in the Chen family who were evil were only a few dozen people. Even if you want to kill them all to serve as a warning, that has nothing to do with the regular servants. But Zhan Mubai had viciously eradicated every single one of them. So during this period of time, Qiao Ying had brought up the idea of punishing Zhan Mu by numerous times. A life for killing lives, using it as a warning to the rest of the three holy lands that they must not be this blatant and unrighteous when doing things. But the two guardians who had came along with her opposed it. Zhan Mubai was a saint emperor of the three holy lands and was a great contributor in strength to protect the Xian continent in the war for seizing the heavens. If he had to pay with his life for killing a few people from the secular world, then was there any logic in this world? This proposal was a little ridiculous. In a fit of anger, Qiao Ying moved out of the Chen family into an inn alone. During this period of time, every day passed by extremely slowly for the people from the three holy lands. Where have all the assassins from Dongfang family and those mysterious experts gone? Why is there no news of them? Even if you come out to create a commotion and not let us catch you, just letting us know that you all still exist works too. They are anxious. But Dongfang Wenqing and the rest who were hiding were even more anxious. They had already stayed in that hidden place for over 10 days. Aside from showing his face for the first couple of days, there had been completely no news from him in the past 7 days. As if he had disappeared from the surface of the earth. And the last order young Master Jun had left was a single word: wait. 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 When do we have to wait until? This little bastard. What sort of trick is this? When he returns, let's see if I'll beat his ass. Dongfang First Master sounded extremely agitated and seemed furious. But he completely understood the current situation and did not dare to act recklessly. Because if it were him alone, he could act recklessly and sacrifice his own life and it wouldn't be a problem. But if he implicated so many people to throw their life away, especially when there were so many lives here that were not from the Dongfang family, this was the greatest worry of the Dongfang First Master. So even if it is frustrating, he had no other choice but to continue waiting. With the passing of time, news continued to come in. The confirmed targets from before had all been successfully killed, aside from this place. The assassins from the Dongfang family had long returned back to their own missions assigned by the Dongfang family. As to the few assassins from Jun Moxie's Heaven Destroyer and Spirit Devourer, they had all begun to infiltrate Chrysanthemum City. Dongfang Wenqing even knew that these people were definitely already here in Chrysanthemum City. But he had no general idea of where they were located. But Dongfang First Master found this matter fascinating. Although Chrysanthemum City was not his own territory, but the reports were still coming in and out smoothly. All these people were coming in from all directions. But they all vanished without a trace. Like a droplet of water blending into the waters in the ocean, and he was only left completely baffled. How was this achieved? Chrysanthemum City may not be small, but it isn't exactly big. All those people from the three holy lands have all that spiritual sense and all. So how come they couldn't even catch one? Looks like the people under this nephew of mine are quite capable. Speaking of Moxie, that lad, what has this brat been up to these few days? I'm really going to be driven to my death from the wait. Not only was the Dongfang first master impatient, there was one more person who was feeling a little impatient, the 14th young master. This great lunatic had been waiting every day. My injuries have already recovered to the level when I broke out of the seal in TNFA, and I'm definitely capable of putting up many fights already. But why is there no more news from that old master? You should continue creating a ruckus. You finally destroyed the alliance between the two of them. But why did you disappear at such an extremely crucial time? What are you afraid of? Don't you have me behind you? This really gives headaches. I wanted to borrow this great opportunity that this lad provided to teach the three holy lands a good lesson. But from the looks of it now. Sigh. Yet another 2 days passed. The Saint Emperors from the three holy lands were also unable to bear it anymore. It was late at night, and the whole Chrysanthemum city was silent. The oil lamp in the study room of the Chen family, which belonged to Chen Qingtian, was still lit. Hai Wuya was holding onto his cup of hot tea. He frowned and said, "Are we being fools? Could it be that all those people weren't here in the first place? All the things were just false alarms. And they had already gone elsewhere already? And one more important thing. Those people's objective for this operation is that Chen Qingtian, who is already dead. Will they just stop and retreat like this? No way. They definitely wouldn't." Jun Moxie said. "Since they already created such a big commotion and came in so blatantly, they definitely won't retreat without achieving anything. Those people who are hiding in the shadows harbored evil intentions, and their real targets were never the Chen family. It has always been us. From start to end. Now that we are already here, how could they retreat?" Recent matters had caused this Saint Emperor, who looked benevolent and carefree, to change. His peaceful-looking appearance containing a trace of evilness. "Brother Jean is right. We have already been strictly guarding the 4 gates during this period of time. There are saints keeping watch every day. Although there are a few suspicious people who came in, but they definitely did not exit," He Zhiqiu said with a heavy look on his face. "So they are definitely within the city currently. It's just that we don't know where they've holed up. We don't need to do anything but wait silently until they are no longer to endure it. They'll jump out on their own. We should just focus on reserving our strength and biding our time." He laughed arrogantly. "With our current strength, we don't even need to do anything. No matter what tricks they pull, it wouldn't have any effect. And there will be no accidents. We only need to wait for the battle to arrive. When this battle is over, then we will need to wait patiently for the war for seizing the heavens. That also needs us to wait quietly. It's better to wait now, since at least we still have something to do. It's much better than holing up in the mountain waiting for time to pass." Jun Moxie and Hai Wuya laughed simultaneously. At this time, suddenly, a sharp, pitiful cry ripped through the night sky. This extremely pitiful cry was like a lightning that cut through the silence of the night, causing everyone to feel their hair stand on end. That sort of despair in the cry, in so much pain that they wished they were dead, sent shivers down people's spines. Everyone's back felt cold. What happened? And although this cry was the last sound the person made before he died, the person who had let out such a terrible cry was clearly an expert. And a top expert. Because the whole of Chrysanthemum City could hear it clearly. Someone who had such immense power had to be at a saint level. But the moment a cry like this was made, whoever or whatever that made the noise definitely had no chance of surviving. Jun Moxie and the other Saint Emperors instantly stood up and exchanged looks, a serious look on their faces. "That is Xia Dongting's voice," Hai Wuya said with confidence, his face muscles convulsing as his pupils dilated and a cold gleam shot from them. The fury in his heart had clearly reached its limit. Xia Dongting was a saint expert belonging to the illusory blood sea. He was a superb Xian cultivator. But right now, he let out this sort of dreadful cry. Let's go. Hurry. Zhan Mubai was instantly filled with rage, disappearing from the study room with a whoosh. Hai Wuya and He Ji Qiu also followed after and vanished simultaneously. The flame remained still and unmoving in the study room. These three people had left at such a fast speed, but the flame had not moved even the slightest. The prologue to an inhuman bloodbath began with this blood-curdling screech. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 885. A terrifying sword. The three people arrived at the place of the incident at lightning speed. Outside the room, the experts of the three holy lands had all gathered here, all their faces filled with grief and indignation. These people were all the top experts of the world, and their reactions were extremely fast. Plus the fact that they were all staying together. They had all gathered the moment the cry began. What's the matter? Hai Wuya asked. It's Xia Dongting. Xia Dongting is done for. A middle-aged man donned in purple robes in the crowd said softly, his face deathly pale. Move aside. Hai Wuya strode forward, and everyone quickly parted ways, opening a path that led straight to the entrance. Hai Wuya's entire body jerked and he froze like a statue when he reached the door. He stood there in a stupefied manner, a look of disbelief in his eyes. Xia Dongting was on the floor right before the door inside the room, laying on the side of his face. An odd expression was on his face. Both his eyes were wide open, despair and anger in his pupils. Both his hands were in a weird position, his left reaching forward, in the shape of a claw. The right was bent at an angle, reaching for his shoulder. His sword was still sitting silently in its sheath on his shoulder. It had not even been unsheathed yet. His body was contorted weirdly, his mouth wide open. Fresh blood started to drop from its inside now, falling to the ground, drip by drip. Hai Wuya jolted violently, slowly lifting his head and closing his eyes. After a while, he slowly asked, who was the first to arrive? Come out to answer me. A purple-robed man slowly walked out from the crowd, with an extremely mournful expression. What was the situation when you arrived? Hai Wuya's voice was full of restraint, seeming like he was withholding all of his anger. What did you discover? This was a perfect assassination. That person said in fear. Lord Hai, Brother Xia and I were only separated by a wall in our lodging, but in the process of this sudden assassination, I didn't hear a single thing or notice anything unusual. The only noise was that cry Brother Xia had made. By the time I reached this place, it was less than half a breath from the time it happened, but Brother Xia was already like this. The corners of the mouth of purple-robed man couldn't help but twitch, frightened by his own words. And it wasn't just him. In fact, all the people who heard him couldn't help but shiver. His words seemed normal, but there was a deep meaning in there which was enough to scare all the saints present to their very core, worrying for their own safety. Successfully assassinating a saint expert. And the other saint who was separated by only a wall did not hear a single thing and had not even noticed anything. Didn't this mean that if this person wanted, he could kill any saint he wanted to? And with no chance of missing his hand at it? What sort of terrifying power did that assassin have? Shocking? Not yet. Because what the purple-robed man said afterwards was even more shocking and unbelievable. Just now, or to be more exact, a minute earlier, I was still having a long talk in Brother Xia's room. Brother Xia once aside that the current situation was like an impending storm. The strength of our enemy is still a profound mystery. Although we are still stronger, but we may not necessarily be capable of suppressing the enemy until they have no strength and can't fight back. So every single one of us must always be on our guard and carry our weapon with us, putting it in a position that allows us to reach for it quickly so we can take on the fight at any time. Precisely because we are strong. The opponent will definitely use small tricks to exhaust our energy, so we must be absolutely careful. But now, everyone sucked in their breaths, looking at Xia Dongting's body on the floor and that long sword on his back that had yet to been touched. A look of utter disbelief was in all their eyes. Xia Dongting said this, so he would have definitely done the same for himself. But even in such a state of high alert, his carefulness had no use or effect when faced with the attack from that assassin. If someone this careful could not escape this fate, what about everyone else? Killing in one strike. A saint of his generation did not even have the chance to unsheath his sword. This was a saint. The sword, being carried on his shoulder, was the most handy position, a position that allowed him to pull his sword out to attack any moment he wanted to. But this sword had lost the chance to come out of its sheath. Then how fast was the speed of that assassin? I came rushing over the moment I heard the cry. Brother Xia still had one last breath, but he was unable to say a single thing. The purple-robed man took in a deep breath and said, "The most unbelievable thing is, the wound was his chest. A single sword that struck straight at the heart." A commotion broke out and everyone started discussing. The wound was his chest. In other words, this blatant assassin carried out his assassination face on. A saint, even if facing a saint emperor, no matter how frightened or sure of loss, would still have the time to bring out his sword. But this unbelievable reality had appeared right before their eyes. What was going on? The wound here is the flaw. The fatal wound definitely is not the one that struck the heart. The one who spoke was Zhang Mubai, who had come in afterwards. A gleam was in his eyes as he slowly spoke. If it was really a single strike to the heart, then even if it was a saint emperor like us, there wouldn't be that sort of pitiful cry from earlier. It would be an instant death. If that was the case, then it really is a perfect assassination. Everyone present knew the vital points of the human body. Zhang Mubai's words had enlightened everyone and reminded everyone present of this fact. Everyone's eyes immediately focused onto the corpse of Xia Dongting on the floor again. Hai Wuya took in a deep breath and squat down, placing Xia Dongting's body flat on the ground. He softly said, "Brother Xia, please understand. For the sake of catching the culprit as soon as possible to prevent other victims and also getting revenge for Brother Xia, we have no choice but to offend you." Everyone felt a chill in their heart. Hai Wuya's words made clear what he was going to do next: dissect the corpse to check for wounds. Only in this way could they truly resolve this mystery and understand the real reason for his death. Hai Wuya stretched his right hand and pulled out the sword from Xia Dongting's back. This sword was finally out of its sheath, not for killing the enemy, but for the sake of dissecting its own owner's corpse. What sort of mockery was this to saints? But right now, they could only watch and bear with it. And even anticipate it. The sword cut through the clothing on Xia Dongting, revealing the flesh on his chest. There was a small, narrow red scar at the position of the heart. If one did not look carefully, they would assume that it was from an accidental scratch by a branch. Who would believe that this minute wound was a fatal one? Hai Wuya lightly parted that wound with his fingers. An arrow of blood spurted out suddenly, extremely forceful, splatting on the ceiling of the room. Hai Wuya tilted his head slightly, allowing that arrow of blood to brush past his own ear. His eyes widened at the wound he just opened up. What a fast sword! What a vicious sword! What a fatal sword! Jun Mubai's eyes narrowed as he slowly nodded. Only the fastest sword could pierce through the chest, a place where the most blood converged, in a single strike and quickly withdrawn, leaving no other traces of a wound. So the blood could only gather and get clogged up with nowhere to flow. Everyone present understood this logic, and they were all confident of doing it. Most of them had done something like this before. But using this sort of swordsmanship to deal with a saint, and achieving this sort of results, no one present was capable of it. This sort of swordsmanship was always used by the strong to bully the weak. Only when dealing with those who were weaker could one be able to succeed in a single strike so freely. If the opponent was similar in strength, or even higher, it was merely an act of suicide. Regular sky xians could use divine weapons to cut away 1,000 times, but they may not be able to break through the xian qi barrier of a saint. Also, saints had frightening reactions. The moment the tip of the sword entered their body, the moment they noticed something was amiss, they were completely capable of contracting all the muscles in their body to move the position of their heart. At the moment the opponent missed when striking at the empty spot, they could quickly strike back. But this sword had cleanly destroyed all the defenses of a saint. Not a single response was made in time. He only had enough time to let out a pitiful scream out of instinct. I believe everyone saw it clearly. This is the real fatal reason. It was a sword like this. Even a saint could do nothing about it. This only proved Brother Xia's judgment. The enemy's strength is a profound mystery. A shockingly powerful assassin hides around us. From now on, all saints shall stay 3 to a room as a precaution. The moment there are any warning signs, immediately alert us. Do not be careless. Hai Wuya said slowly. Everyone replied simultaneously. Everyone had understood that Hai Wuya's words were not to frighten them. Any moment they were careless, they could be the next Xia Dongting. Hold on. This matter may not be this simple. Jun Moxie scoffed and said. The true meaning behind this sword is not just this. The culprit is showing us his might. Showing his might? Everyone was confused. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 886. 3 Intentions. By logic, there is no chance of surviving this sword the moment it goes through the heart. Xia Dongting would only be able to let out a soft sigh or noise, and definitely not that powerful cry just now. Jun Moxie said, I dare say, if we cut open the wound to take a closer look, the sword wound is definitely odd. Hai Wuya frowned and considered for a while, before lifting the sword in his hand and cutting open Xia Dongting's body from the center. Jun Moxie squatted down and carefully opened it. Brother Hai, come and look. Without needing him to say anything, Hai Wuya also widened his eyes in shock. The answer was right before their eyes. The tip of the sword had accurately aimed at the vital part of the chest of the heart, but it was also intentionally slanted by a centimeter, not entering the heart directly but wounding the side of the heart. This sword obviously could go straight into the heart, making this a perfect assassination, and even avoid that loud cry, but the assassin did not do so. Instead, intentionally allowing everyone to know the news of Xia Dongting's death instantly. This sword, despite intentionally missing in its aim, still doomed Xia Dongting either way. That person used their xian qi to gush through the heart and destroy the dantian. The only use of this was for the victim to let out a loud, pitiful cry immediately. But after that, the person would also stop breathing and die. Jun Moxie stood up with a serious expression. The person we are up against is a lunatic. He purposely let Xia Dongting make this cry. He said slowly. His intention is definitely to give us a warning, or rather to say, to provoke us. He Ji Qiu interrupted, standing behind him. He is notifying us that he has begun to take action so that we can be prepared and be on our guard. So that this battle will be even more exciting. Everyone got strangely agitated by this sentence. It was unacceptable. A cold killing intent appeared on Hai Wuya's face. What an arrogant bastard! He said through gritted teeth. As a saint emperor, being looked down on by people, how could he not feel infuriated? He Ji Qiu also had a dark look, and his tone was also lower than usual. The clenched fist is the strongest argument. Power determines everything, and this is a fact that we all acknowledge. And from the looks of this assassination, the other party has all the rights to be talking big. This sort of assassination capability is beyond any one of us. The enemy this time is not only powerful, he is even more scheming than any schemers or the most cunning of men. He let out a long sigh. Facing an enemy like this is not necessarily less dangerous than facing the 9th-14th young master. Not only must we view this person with great caution, we must be extra careful. From the way this person is showing his might through this assassination attempt, when dealing with him one-on-one, we may not have confidence in a complete victory. The more despicable thing is, such a powerful person, when facing an opponent who is weaker than himself, actually used assassination. He Ji Qiu had said the last sentence gritting his teeth tightly. The muscles in his jaw were trembling, clearly, and he was extremely furious. The moment this was said, everyone felt the same. The 9th-14th young master was a lunatic, but he was a madman. Crazy and maniacal in the way he did things. But he would not do anything this sneaky like assassinating. Or rather, he would be feel of disdain to do it. If the 9th-14th young master wanted to fight, he would make it a large-scale one. He would definitely not attack behind someone's back. But the person in the dark they were dealing with was clearly a top assassin that was willing to resort to unscrupulous methods. An enemy like this was one that really gave a headache. He was definitely harder to deal with than the 9th-14th young master. Brother Jean, this may not sound good, but I think that this assassin is the result of the trouble you had created. The other party's aim may just be you alone. He Ji Qiu turned around to face Jun Moxie, smiling awkwardly. Me? How could it be me? Where is this coming from? Do enlighten me. Jun Moxie was confused. To be honest, I really hope that I am wrong in my judgment. No one in this whole world has this sort of assassination ability, even in the pugilistic world. Only today and now, it suddenly appears. The moment it appears, it kills a saint. He Ji Qiu's eyes were cold as he said slowly. In my prediction, it seems that only one person is capable of this. Who? Hai Wuya and Jun Moxie asked simultaneously. He Ji Qiu let out a deep sigh and said, "It is the mysterious master of Jun Moxie." Brother Jean had sneak attacked his disciple, so he is using the same method to deal with us. This was the only explanation I could come up with. Indeed. It must be the case. Hai Wuya and Jun Moxie both came to realization. The three holy lands no longer had any enemies in the world today after 10,000s of years. What more? A powerful enemy like this. Aside from this slightly more reasonable explanation, there were really no other possibilities. But, Guardian Senior Qiao had clearly said before that Jun Moxie did not die. She even saw Jun Moxie appear in Chrysanthemum City with her own eyes. Hai Wuya mumbled. Since Jun Moxie did not really die, why would his master be dealing with us like this in such a crazy manner? That little thief suffered a blow from me at full strength. With those pathetic powers of his, how could he not die? Whereas, she has never seen Jun Moxie before and doesn't even know how Jun Moxie looks like. Don't tell me it is true just because she said it is. I never believed this matter. Zhan Mubai scoffed and said, displeased. The she that Zhan Mubai was referring to was naturally referring to Qiao Ying. Clearly, Qiao Ying caused this great Saint Emperor Zhan to be strongly displeased with her due to her reaction in the way he handled things last time. Senior Qiao is a person of good virtue and is a prudent person. That news may not be false. Hai Wuya said hesitantly. One must not believe in the words of a woman. Zhan Mubai's face was black as he rolled his eyes. Unless that little thief Jun Moxie really appears before my eyes, well and alive, I'll never believe that she is. Everyone exchanged looks, but did not say a word. After a long while, Hai Wuya said, handle Brother Xia's body appropriately, get someone skilled to sew up his body, and we'll bury him when he return back. Everyone else be on your guards. Do not be careless. The opponent we are facing this time is not to be belittled. Yes, sir. Everyone responded. It was dark at night, and the wind seemed to be blowing even closer. It seemed like there was an invisible pressure enveloping the boundless night sky, causing the atmosphere to be desolate and miserable. This is a vicious battle that has nothing to do with justice. It is a battle that has no right or wrong. The reason why I did this was not for any noble reason. It was only for the sake of allowing my family and me to be able to survive. This is the only reason I fight. That is all. Jun Moxie said in a low voice, standing in the lush crown of a huge tree several hundred zhang from the Chen Manor. There is no battle cry or so-called great logic for this battle. Only life and death. So we must not be soft-hearted. Regardless of if we are dealing with a ruffian or a saint, as long as they want us dead, then the only correct thing for us to do is to make sure they die before us. Regardless if he is a hero or a saint. The moment he makes us his enemy, he is our enemy. That is all. This logic I understood at least a few hundred years before you. Can you stop saying it so repeatedly? Mei Shuayan frowned, seemingly on the verge of going mad. Jun Moxie had been trying to reform her thinking like this for numerous days. Saying almost the same thing for dozens of times every day. Right now, Jun Moxie only had to say the first couple of words and Mei Shuayan would be able to say everything else he was going to say without missing a single word. I just want to tell you that. You only want to tell me that. Regardless if they were doing it for the sake of the war for seizing the heavens, or really for the sake of the world. But they want us to die. Then we absolutely must not be soft-hearted. If we need to kill, be despicable and be sneaky if necessary. Mei Shuayan said this paragraph through gritted teeth. So clever. Actually, that was what I mean. You finally understand it. I feel heartened. Jun Moxie clapped and said with a smile. Mei Shuayan was speechless. Can I not be clever? I heard this almost 1,000 times within these couple of days. I am almost on the verge of going crazy from being tormented with this paragraph. If I can't memorize it, then it'll really make no sense. Don't even talk about remembering it. Even if you want me to say it backwards. It is also not an issue. Moxie. I only don't understand how you were able to kill that Xia Dongting silently with a single strike and make this assassination perfect. But still purposely make him cry out. Mei Shuayan frowned and said, I am not against killing them. But I do not support torturous killing. A person dying is like a flame going out. No matter how big their crimes. A single strike through their heart and killing them would be enough. Why must you make it so cruel? No, no, no. You've misunderstood. Jun Moxie chuckled. First, you need to understand that what I did this time was definitely not torturous killing. You have yet to see real torturing to death. Next, time if there is time and we have the circumstances. I'll show it to you bit by bit. I guarantee that it'll let you, Lord of the Beasts, get so flabbergasted that you feel completely weak. And second, Mei Shuayan gritted her teeth and controlled her temper. Clever. To know that I had a second intention. Jun Moxie's sentence almost made Mei Shuayan faint. Rolling her eyes, she forced herself to control her anger. You already said, first. If I do not know that there is a second, third, or whatever, then I must be ridiculously dumb. Second, my aim is to let him notify the people of the 3 holy lands that I have arrived. The game of revenge has officially begun. Everyone must slowly enjoy the fun of this game. Jun Moxie smiled gleefully. You must know that enemies like us who are invisible and hidden can give our opponents the greatest pressure. The moment it is nightfall, everyone will be fearful and jittery. Even when the 2 of us are sleeping and snoring away, they will still be on their highest guard, not even daring to relax the slightest. Over time like this, this is the highest realm of torturing people. Is there a third? Mei Shuayan scoffed and asked. Her heart was scolding, that's really sinister. Naturally, there is a third. Jun Moxie scratched his head and chuckled. The third intention is my most important intention. That is to us. This cry to tell another person that Big Brother me is here. And Big Brother here has already started his actions. Take good note of the timing and cooperate. Or if he is late, by the time I'm done, he won't make it in time for even a tiny part of the action. Inform someone? Who is it? Oh, it's the 14th young master. Mei Shuayan understood the moment she had asked the question. Jun Moxie comfortably changed his position and said, Of course. We may be a lot stronger now. But, if we have a free hired thug for us, why not? I wouldn't find it too many to have free hired thugs like this. How great would it be to have 8 or 10 of them? Free hired thug. And 8 or 10 of them? What are you hoping for? You, this person. Mei Shuayan was angry and amused. The 14th young master that shocked the world with his name was a free hired thug in his mouth? Say, it's better for everyone to be happy together than be happy alone. Jun Moxie yawned and turned his body around. Don't move. Let me snooze for a while. I'm really sleepy. Then, he laid his head down and used Mei Shuayan's supple thighs as his pillow and closed his eyes comfortably. This lecher. Mei Shuayan glared for a long time, but ultimately couldn't bear to fling this scoundrel down the tree. There was no other reason. Young Master Jun was really drained and exhausted this couple of days. Mei Shuayan felt soft-hearted thinking of this, feeling an unexplainable heartache. Only she really knew what Jun Moxie had been doing these couple of days. He had practically no time to close his eyes, being so busy. He was busy while she was sleeping. When she woke up, he was still busy. He was really too exhausted. I'll allow him to be willful today, this one time, and let him get a good sleep. Mei Shuayan looked tenderly at Jun Moxie, whose eyes were closed, laying on her lap. His face was filled with relief, seemingly at peace. She couldn't help but feel a burst of sweetness in her heart. It is only in my embrace that he can be this relaxed for a while. At this time, Jun Moxie, who seemed to have fallen asleep, mumbled, "Say, this woman's thighs are really smooth. I really wish to touch it after stripping it naked." This sentence alone instantly shattered all the tender affection that was surging in Mei Shuayan's heart. It had also tossed the tempting idea of her secretly kissing this man out of the window. Mei Shuayan was fuming. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 887. Terrifying Heavenly Might. The sky darkened gradually, and just as dusk was about to descend, another storm arose. Earlier, Jun Moxie had used all his methods, using the Hongjun Pagoda's shocking abilities to protect himself and Mei Shuayan, successfully digesting the horrifying effects of the golden jade fluid for his use. With the assistance of the Hongjun Pagoda, the two of them had managed to tide through the ordeal smoothly. After breaking through successfully, the two of them didn't leave and continued in the Hongjun Pagoda. Mei Shuayan focused on consolidating her cultivation, with the exceedingly safe, peaceful environment of the Hongjun Pagoda as well as the ocean of pure spiritual qi as support. It was the best place to consolidate one's cultivation. As for Jun Moxie, he immediately got busy refining pills and spent his efforts on other matters. When the two came out, they immediately went to a wide and secluded area to face the inevitable heavenly tribulation that would follow with every breakthrough. Only after passing through the heavenly tribulation would they be considered to be completely safe. But who would have thought that after waiting around for several hours, there were no reactions from the sky? This point had caused Mei Shuayan to feel incomparably troubled. Humans could make mistakes or have oversights. This much was understandable. But heavenly tribulations were the punishment of the heavens. Ah! Could the heavens also make mistakes? The two of them had advanced together and had even made multiple breakthroughs in a row. In other words, each of them were supposed to face at least 5 or 6 heavenly tribulations stacked up together, but there were actually no reactions at all. After guessing around blindly for a long time and seeing that they couldn't simply wait around forever, they decided to continue on to Chrysanthemum City and also assassinated Xia Dongting that very night. Previously, their strengths were not sufficient, and they couldn't kill. But with their strengths greatly improved now, wouldn't it be dumb to not attack? The target they'd selected this time was ultimately a 3rd-level saint. Even though young Master Jun had grown much stronger than before, he still needed to use his full strength to kill him in one stroke. But because of this, the true depth of his cultivation, which had been hidden away before, was finally unleashed, causing the heavenly tribulation that hadn't reacted for so long to respond suddenly. And from the looks of it, this was not a heavenly tribulation for just young Master Jun. The heavenly tribulation for the both of them had arrived together. So the moment the two came out from the Chen family manor, the dark clouds in the sky had been gathering with shocking speed, nearly merging into a single entity. It was as if all the clouds in the world congregated at the same place. In a swift moment, the clear skies had been completely covered. Lightning bolts that had been brewing for an unknown length of time arched dangerously across the sky, and the thick swirl of clouds slowly formed into a gigantic whirlpool in the sky, finally turning into a huge eye. It was as if a hegemonic, one-eyed beast had taken over the entire sky. The countless lightning arcs did not fall immediately. Instead, they all shot into the cloud eye and completely disappeared. Following that, Another batch of clouds swarmed over and more lightning suffused into the enormous eye, repeating the same sequence. In the early hours of the morning, the entire clump of black clouds weighed down heavily, causing everyone to feel an exceedingly strange feeling. As if within a reach of their hands, they could grab a piece of the cloud. In fact, the tips of the taller trees had already extended into the dark clouds. From this, one could easily tell what extent the weight and density of the clouds had reached. The more dense the might of heaven and earth, the heavier it would be. Even the shrill howls of the wind that used to be so ever-present in the past seemed to be lethargic and slow, finding it hard to advance. In the sky, there were already over 100 huge cloud eyes, covering the sky in a dense sheet. There wasn't any lightning, nor was there any luster of any other color, except for the color black. Black, this kind of blackness was even darker than the night. Even if a person stretched their finger out before their eyes, they wouldn't be able to see anything. The clouds continued to gather and build up, without concern for any outside influence. But this kind of heavy pressure was so strong that everyone found it hard to even breathe. To the common people and low-level cultivators, this kind of pressure that came from the heavens and earth only felt like a stifling pressure. But to high-level cultivators who already grasped the power of heaven and earth, it was incomparably shocking. Within the distance of 10,000 li, even all the superior supreme worldly experts did not dare to move. Whether they be superior supremes, venerables, saints, or even saint emperor existences, all of them were scared stiff, not even daring to breathe a little too loudly. Most of all, they didn't dare expose even a tiny bit of their Xian cultivation. All of them were deathly afraid that if they so much as moved a bit, the attention of the heavens would draw onto them, and this terrifying heavenly tribulation of unknown origins would suddenly drop upon their heads. Such matters were definitely not a joke. It wasn't a groundless fear, but an actual, very real possibility. When heavenly tribulations arrived, it would usually only seek out the person that had attracted it. But if this person had outside help, or if someone coincidentally stepped into the radius of the terrifying lightning cloud's range, the lightning tribulation would similarly grow stronger, becoming double or even manifold stronger than originally intended, resulting in everyone being turned into ashes. The situation right now and the scale of the heavenly tribulation were truly unprecedented. Nobody dared to make any moves. Even the stronger experts were not an exception. Who could truly tell who this crazy thing would fall upon next? If I moved, and the heavenly tribulation locked on to me because of that, wouldn't I die a very innocent death? Not to mention, these tribulation clouds were supermassive scaled. The moment anyone came into contact with it, it wouldn't simply be a case of most likely will perish. No, they would be dead without a sliver of doubt. Such a terrifying might. Even if all the experts of the three holy lands came together and combined their strengths to resist. Assuming that the heavenly tribulation didn't grow stronger because of the number of people, the only likely outcome would be that all of them would be turned into a pile of ash. The remains of everyone mixed up together. Even if the Nine Nether First young master appeared, he would still jump far away with shock. Since time immemorial, such a strange sight had never appeared before, not even once. 99 huge eyes stared silently down from the sky, with great power accumulating within them. From the start to now, there had yet to be any movements from them. It couldn't be that there were 99 peak experts breaking through at the same time, drawing the tribulation clouds, right? But why weren't the lightning clouds striking down yet? What were they waiting for? All the signs of an incoming storm were brewing. Finally, all of a sudden, the earth fell silent. The howls of the wind seemed to have been strangled abruptly. suddenly stopping. A moment ago, the entire area was still filled with noises. But in an instant, it had become as silent as to be able to detect the sound of a drop of a pin. Such a drastic contrast caused everyone's hearts to freeze in an instant. It's here. Jun Moxie and Mei Shuayan were perched atop a tall tree, as if afraid that the lightning would not find them, purposefully moving themselves to an eye-catching high point. 19, 20, 35, 77. Young Master Jun laid comfortably on the lap of the great beauty and twiddled with his fingers as he counted the huge eyes in the sky with a serious look on his face. As he counted, he furrowed his brows and shook his head slightly. That's not right. The numbers are somewhat not right. What's not right? Mei Shuayan asked. Breakthrough, under normal circumstances. There should only be one cluster of clouds. Jun Moxie pointed at the anomaly in the sky and continued. Since the two of us jumped through many levels, and we're also going through this lightning tribulation together, it would be reasonable even if the number of clouds was slightly more. But it shouldn't be to this level. Right, isn't this just plain bullying? Young Master Jun grumbled with some frustration. Look, I advanced from a 3rd level venerable to 4th level venerable. Broke through the 4 ranks of Saint Realm to 3rd level Saint Emperor, that's only 8 breakthroughs. As for you, we were basically joined together as one body when we broke through, so you had the same results as me. In other words, the both of us together added up should only draw 16 clouds. Even if the clouds doubled because we're taking it together, it would still only be 32. But why did 99 appear? That's more than 3 times the original amount. What kind of logic is this? Young Master Jun continued angrily. Isn't this just toying with people? These despicable heavens, where did they learn their math from? Mei Shuayan rolled her eyes somewhat helplessly. Why don't you go up there and debate with them? Do you think that I'm stupid? I'm not going. Jun Moxie refused flatly. Whoever goes is an idiot. What kind of joke is this? Jumping into the sky to reason with the heavens? Even if I want to seek death, it shouldn't be in that manner. Are you trying to murder your own husband? Mei Shuayan smiled lightly, not saying anything. Facing such a terrifying heavenly tribulation, the couple was actually still nonchalant and completely uncaring, happily talking and flirting with each other as per normal. Then, suddenly, as the silence reached a peak and the darkness of the clouds turned black to the extreme, a series of violent rumblings rang out through the clouds, causing the atmosphere in the entire area to shake. A huge ball of purple lightning gathered and formed at the core of the clouds. Accompanied by a heaven-shaking thunderous boom, a pillar of lightning as thick as a water tank streaked down from the sky, directly, accurately striking onto the tree that the two were sitting on. The entire ground instantly trembled and shook violently. At this time, Zhan Mubai and the rest were all gathered in the Chen family courtyard. They were practically the closest to where the lightning tribulation was. Everyone was so stifled that they could hardly breathe. Just what kind of demon was undergoing a tribulation to actually cause such a grand and terrifying scene? Jun Moxie and Mei Shuayan both utilized the yin-yang escape art at the same time, turning their bodies into void. The pillar of lightning blasted down, striking onto the tree in almost the same instant it had formed. Hai Wuya and the rest all gasped with shock, their eyes filled with hopelessness and despair. None of them had expected that the blasted fellow who was breaking through was actually so close to them. From the looks of it, all of them here were doomed to endure this tribulation. Everyone understood that there would definitely be incomparable explosions blasting out everywhere in the next instant. With this crazy lightning storm, the area of several hundred zhang would definitely be turned into a field of ashes soon, spreading gradually until all the energy in the tribulation clouds was completely exhausted. But considering the scale and quality of this lightning storm, hoping to weather it safe and sound was simply a ludicrous dreams, and one of an idiot. Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 888. Is it a human or a monster? By the time this lightning tribulation passed, everyone here, whether they were peak-level experts of the world or plain commoners, none of them would be spared. This heartless bastard. Who the hell chooses a place packed so densely with people to make a breakthrough? Moreover, the scale of this lightning tribulation is so horrifying. This is seeking oneself's own death and implicating others as well. The lightning pillar blasted down, but the expected thunderous boom that should have followed actually did not arrive. This huge pillar of lightning seemed like a drop of water that fell into the ocean, disappearing without a trace. There wasn't even a tiny bit of sound created. What the hell was happening? Huge question marks bloomed in everyone's hearts. That lightning strike was clearly not fake. Could it be that it was just a hollow shot? I've never even heard of such a thing before. Following that, the second strike, third strike. The frequency at which the lightning struck became more dense, and the size of each lightning bolt was growing thicker and thicker as they fell from the sky unceasingly. The entire land was shaking violently, and even the loose stones on the ground were skipping in a lively manner. However, the booming sounds that should occur after the lightning bolts hit the ground actually did not appear at all. Heavens, just what is going on? The person undergoing the tribulation actually has the ability to dissolve the lightning tribulation? How can this be? He Chiu stood mutely by the window and watched the entire thing. His mind was completely mess right now. This was the only possible explanation. But, was there really such a thing? Inside the city, at a certain location, 3 figures stood shoulder to shoulder atop the roof of an inn, staring at the lightning storm striking downwards crazily not far away. Everyone had serious expressions on their faces. The person in the middle was dressed in a flowing white robe, delicate and gentle looking. This was Qiao Ying. Standing beside her on both sides were 2 thin, middle-aged men. They stood silently on the rooftop, not utilizing a single shred of Xian Qi. However, the 3 of them all had extraordinary auras, like towering mountains. What is going on exactly? Is this really someone breaking through? Qiao Ying muttered in a low voice, seemingly speaking to herself and also asking the 2 people beside her. The 2 people's faces turned complicated as they exchanged a glance. However, they did not say a single word. Because, even they didn't dare to be certain of what was going on. If all this commotion was caused by a single person breaking through, and the person even had the ability to dissolve the lightning without revealing himself, then, it was surely a little too ridiculous. I think so, the man on the left said with some doubt. His eyes that had always been clear and confident was suddenly filled with confusion and uncertainty. When he spoke those words, he even questioned himself in his heart. Is it real or not? Assuming it's a single person causing all this commotion. The man on the right hesitated and said, then, that person's strength should not be too far away from the 9 nether first young master from 10,000 years ago. Even the most risky tribulations we faced at the time of our breakthroughs were not 1/10 the scale of this one. Qiao Ying exclaimed with shock. If that's the case, this person's strength would surpass ours by manifold. Even the 9 nether 14th young master does not have such a level of strength. for such a powerful expert. Indeed, only the 9 Nether First Young Master can compare. Although the 9 Nether First Young Master is probably a little stronger, but in the current world, this person would have no rival. Indeed, if there's really only one person breaking through now, then that person's strength will truly be unrivaled in the current world. That person would be number 1 under the heavens, without a doubt. The eyes of the two-person grew more and more heated and agitated as they watched the lightning striking downwards madly. Xiao Ying rubbed her eyes and looked at the 2 men beside her with disbelief on her face. Her cherry-like mouth was opened slightly, like a dumb chicken. The 2 guardians beside her were already experts who stood at the very peak of this world. Was this still the legendary Heart Seal Sky Sword and Willful Wild Saber? This was too unbelievable. In that moment, Xiao Ying even felt that these 2 might be imposters. Someone must have impersonated Sky Sword and Wild Saber to stand beside her. Sky Sword, Wild Saber. The 2 great guardians of the Heaven Saint Palace. The strengths of these 2 definitely were not inferior to even the Heaven Saint Palace's Palace Lord's peak experts. Heart Seal Sky Sword, Chengyin Xiao, Willful Wild Saber, Chu Wu Hui. These 2 were legends, 2 great legends of the Xian continent. The pride of the Xian continent. Today, these 2 legendary characters were currently looking at the lightning storm with worshipful gazes, as though they were young schoolgirls who suddenly saw the idol of their dreams. Just who was this person undergoing the lightning tribulation? Was it a human or a monster? It doesn't matter if it's a human or a monster. Whoever it is, they're the undisputable number 1 under the heavens. As if they had seen through Xiao Ying's thoughts. The 2 of them concluded the conversation. Far off in the blackness of the night, a dark figure as black as night rose up quietly. Under the illumination of the lightning flashes, this figure turned illusory, seemingly becoming one with the shadows. This person was less than 15 zhang away from the heart of the lightning storm. This was exceedingly dangerous distance. As long as the range of the lightning strike was slightly expanded, this person would not even have a place to escape to. Just who was this? To actually have the ability to get so close to this area, approaching the death zone? In this world, only one person would have the guts and ability to do that. And this was exactly that person. The 9 Nether 14th Young Master. At this moment, he was carefully observing the core region of lightning and thunder. As he looked at the direction all the lightning bolts struck, his eyes grew complicated, and he murmured softly to himself, just who is this person who attracted the heavenly tribulation and swallows it up? In this world, who has such great abilities? The 9 Nether 14th Young Master's vision was undoubtedly much more sharp than most people's. Although others were curious about why there weren't any effects after the lightning bolts landed, they at best thought that the person undergoing the tribulation was neutralizing it before it could cause any damage. But no one had thought of any other possible explanations. Or rather, they didn't dare to think in that direction. But the 9 Nether 14th Young Master who was watching at a close distance could clearly see that the lightning bolts had completely disappeared. They weren't being neutralized, rather, they had been swallowed away. Even more horrifying was that even at such a close distance, he still couldn't see what was going on inside. There was clearly only a single tree there. The 9 Nether 14th Young Master had an exceptionally complex look on his face at this moment. Just by witnessing this powerful display had caused this aloof and proud number 1 lunatic under the heavens to feel truly convinced. Regardless of who is inside, I will not be a match for him. I admit my inferiority. But when his thoughts traveled in this direction, the 9 Nether 14th Young Master felt so depressed that he wanted to die. Because he knew that he couldn't do the same thing as this person. Every time he broke through, the 14th young master could only rely on the strength of his own body to forcefully endure the lightning tribulation. He would find a spot away from people, at the peak of an unlucky mountain. After every breakthrough, his entire body would be filled with injuries, and the unlucky mountain would be flattened. But this mysterious expert before him could not only pass through the tribulation with ease, he could even swallow the tyrannical energies of the heavens without a single noise. What kind of heavenly gap was that? The 14th young master watched the falling lightning dumbly, seemingly forgetting to hide himself. As the silver lightning danced through the sky, the 14th young master's solitary figure was also discovered by the experts of the three holy lands. It's him. Yes. It's actually that lunatic, the 14th young master. He's the most important target of our mission this time and also the most frightening one. Everyone's eyes were widened with shock as they looked at that figure. But with the power of heaven and earth raging around them, no one dared to make any rash moves. Just like that, all the experts turned into rigid statues because of this extraordinary incident. Regardless of what enmity or hatred they had with each other, everything was in a temporary state of peace. Only the thunderous booms that seemed to want to annihilate the world and the huge bolts of lightning fell continuously, seemingly without pause. Streak after streak, bolt after bolt, dense as a heavy storm, striking endlessly with a frenzied manner at the mysterious expert. Everyone's heart thumped with great fear, whether they were saint emperors or saints. Everyone's tongue was dry shocked. What if the person under that storm was me? All those experts did not even dare to think in that direction. But the more they didn't dare to think, the more their thoughts could not help but wonder and imagine. Every time those thoughts rose up, they would be repressed immediately. At the same time, their bodies would tremble excitedly with battle intent. Although the thunderous sounds were loud and the energy the clouds contained were shocking, it would eventually be exhausted. As the lightning fell unceasingly, it eventually weakened and disappeared completely. Finally, all the clouds swirled together and formed into a single giant eye. A long rumbling rang out, and a bout of even more intense lightning poured down with the force of a waterfall. My God! Am I going crazy? Or has the world gone crazy? A saint-level expert gasped aloud as his body trembled like a kite. This sentence directly echoed everyone's thoughts. The most unbelievable thing was that this second round of lightning strikes actually lasted from dawn to midday, carrying on until night. The entire thing had gone on for a full day. The lightning bolts grew thicker and thicker, and the force of their strikes grew heavier and heavier. But in the end, it still failed to create any destruction. Even the tree at the middle of it was still standing tall and straight, without a single bit of anomaly. Everyone stood with their mouths gaping like wooden chickens. For an entire day, they watched like that without eating, drinking, kissing, or even blinking. These people included the three saint emperors, Zhan Mubai, Hai Wuya, and He Zhi Qiu, and over 40 saint experts. It included Chu Wuhui, Cheng Yin Xiao, Chu Wuhui, and the 14th young master. All of them felt as if they were sleepwalking, and their expressions were vacant and frail. Finally, the thunderous sounds stopped, and the lightning vanished. In a few short moments, the densely packed clouds in the sky also dissipated completely. At this point, everyone finally raised their heads and looked up. The sky was completely cloudless for 10,000 li. Stars dotted the night sky, as far as the eye could see, and a bright moon hung high in the sky. This lightning tribulation had actually persisted for an entire day. Cheng Yin Xiao gasped lowly. All of a sudden, his body flashed and vanished. In that moment, he was going forward to meet this senior who'd successfully broken through. Tonight, no matter what, he must take a look at this transcendental senior with his own eye. There was only that simple goal. There weren't any evil intents, or any selfish motives. It was just a pure desire from his heart to meet this person. That was all. Perhaps, apart from this opportunity, he would never have the chance to meet, or even hear anything about this person. If he missed it this time, it would be the most regrettable thing in his life. Chu Wuhui realized this as well, and followed closely behind him. In his eyes, there was only a fervent desire. Right behind him was Qiao Ying. Even Zhan Mu Bai and the rest were also rushing towards that location madly. However, the fastest one among them was still the 14th young master. After all, he'd been the closest to the site. He was only a mere dozen zhang away. Before his movement technique was truly unleashed, the 14th young master had already arrived under the tree. Empty. There weren't even the slightest trace of a shadow. The 14th young master stretched out his hand and touched the tree's bark, his eyes blazing with emotion. So. Tens of experts appeared on all sides, forming a large encirclement. They looked around the area silently and looked at the 14th young master silently. But right now in everyone's heart, the 14th young master was not the main character anymore. The main character had disappeared, or perhaps, unless this tree was the one that had been breaking through. Was it this tree that had lived for an unrecorded number of years? Everyone was stuck in an awkward situation, not knowing what they should do. Jun Moxie and Mei Shuayan had already escaped into the Hongjun Pagoda long ago. He still hadn't forgotten that a perverse character like Qiaoying with her all-seeing eye still existed in this world. Although his cultivation had improved greatly, whether or not it was enough for him to hide from the all-seeing eye wasn't something that he had much confidence with. Moreover, even if he could avoid it, Mei Shuayan had only begun learning the yin-yang escape art a short while ago. Her understanding over it was still very weak. Thus, young Master Jun had directly brought her into the Hongjun Pagoda to rest. Let these guys be shocked for a while first. Besides, the 14th young master has already appeared. If they could fight a round first, that would be a great thing. There's no way I'll reject such a good thing. Please subscribe to this channel, so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 889. Whose idea was it? The 14th young master stood up slowly, as if he didn't even notice the experts of the 3 holy lands gathering around him. Or perhaps, he didn't place them in his sight at all. He simply lifted his head and looked at the sky, as if he was pondering something. The situation before his eyes. Just what was happening. The situation had caused even this lunatic of a generation to sink into deep confusion. Although he was facing the crowd and his face was lifted, no one could see his face clearly, without exception. It was as if he was just an indistinct shadow. In the instant that Qiaoying arrived, she opened her all-seeing eye and looked towards the 14th young master. She naturally wanted to take a good look at the true appearance of this demon. Such a good chance did not come by easily for her to observe him at such a close distance. However, Qiaoying was doomed to be disappointed. Because all she saw was still just a clump of mist. The all-seeing eye that she had so much faith in to see through anything, actually could not even pierce through the 14th young master's veil. This discovery had caused Qiaoying to feel incomparably shocked. 9 Nether 14th Young Master. We've not seen each other for more than 300 years. Your bearings are as before. Ah. How delightful. Cheng Yin Xiao looked over and lifted his head, smiling lightly as he said. His tone carried a hint of warning as he offered words of congratulations and respect. Compared to the enmity of the 3 Holy Lands and the 9 Nether 14th Young Master, Cheng Yin Zhao's attitude was much warmer. Because he knew that the 9 Nether 14th Young Master position among all of the 3 Holy Lands' enemies was always behind the strange races. Although the threat he posed by himself was even greater than the threat that the strange races posed. This was the high-level awareness of a guardian. Although both sides would still need to engage in a battle of life and death, it wasn't due to hatred or enmity, but because of a difference in ideologies. Cheng Yin Xiao. I remember you. You old fellow hasn't changed much either. Still having that half-dead face. The 9 Nether 14th Young Master's head was still raised to the sky. He didn't turn to look at Cheng Yin Xiao, but he still called out his name accurately. There's me too, 14th Young Master. You didn't only remembering old Chen but forgot about me, right? Chu Wuhui said with a light chuckle. How could I? Willful wild saber Chu Wuhui, this young master is truly a bit regretful. 300 over years ago, this young master almost had the opportunity to make you worthy of your title, but fell short by a bit, allowing you to return by luck. The 9 Nether 14th Young Master said with a faint sigh of regret. Bullshit. Chu Wuhui roared loudly and jumped out. That was because this daddy was careless, falling for your trick. How about, the two of us go for a few rounds right now? Even if we fight another 10 rounds, you won't be a match for me. The 9 Nether 14th Young Master snorted coldly. Heaven Saint Palace's Sky Sword and Wild Saber. The names of the 2 top experts are just 2 scoundrels. Still, 2 scoundrels are still somewhat better than the lowlife scums down there. I guess this young master can feel somewhat comforted. As he said this, the 9 Nether 14th Young Master stared coldly at Zhan Mubai and the rest. His disdain was clearly displayed, without the need for words. As a Saint Emperor, Zhan Mubai actually felt his eyes sting when the 9 Nether 14th Young Master's gaze pierced into his eyes, causing his eyes to water as if he was on the verge of crying. Cheng Yin Xiao laughed aloud, not minding the snide remarks. If we're scoundrels, then 9 Nether 14th Young Master, you can also be considered as an utter villain. All of us are the same. There's really no need to be so courteous. The 9 Nether 14th Young Master chuckled and smiled. Not pretentious as expected. All of you are here. And so am I. Looks like our final showdown is destined to be at this place. Or should we pick another time for it? Cheng Yin Xiao smiled lightly and raised his brows slightly. Could it be that 14th Young Master also cannot wait to carry out a killing spree? Your old friend is right here. Don't tell me. There's no face to speak of. A few people here must die. The 9 Nether 14th Young Master said coldly. Even if the entire world's face was brought to me and stacked in front of me, I must still kill those people. Moreover, when have the faces of the both of you ever meant anything? Dare I ask who those few people are? Chu Wuhui asked lowly. The people I look down upon the most in this life are those who sneak around despicably, attacking people who are down and injured. Especially, when they're in the higher position, to actually use methods like sneak attacks and encirclement. For those people, I would never let even a single one of them off. The 9 Nether 14th Young Master said blandly. I understand now. You're referring to the Saint Emperors who sneak attacked and plotted against you back at Tien Fa Forest when you broke through the seal. Cheng Yin Xiao nodded lightly, instantly understanding his words. Without pausing, he asked again. 14th young master, dare I ask? If they hadn't used such methods and fought against you individually, how much chance would they stand? How much chance would they have of leaving alive? What a ludicrous question. If it's a fair battle, this young master would definitely be able to snap their necks in the blink of an eye. Fighting individually against me? Are they worthy of that? The 14th young master laughed madly. That's right. They're indeed unworthy. Cheng Yin Xiao scoffed lowly. Since you knew that they couldn't fight head-on against you, you still hoped that they would fight against you fairly, not employing any tactics? Everyone has their own point of view. You have your reason for wanting to kill them, and they also should have their rights for wanting to sneak attacks you. 14th young master, if they had the strength to fight against you head-on, do you think that anyone would be willing to use despicable measures? It's because they don't have the strength to fight fairly against you, but they have their reasons for wanting to kill you. If they don't use sneak attacks, what other methods can they use? The 14th young master snorted and rolled his eyes. Those words are indeed right. Everyone indeed has their own reasons. But after choosing their course of action, they should also need to bear the responsibility of the consequences themselves. So, if you want to kill someone, you can. But don't go around wielding your so-called reasons. Because no matter what reason you have, it's all just ludicrous and laughable. Chu Wuhui laughed coldly and said, in this world, all reasons can be torn down. No matter if it's righteous, filthy, despicable, or even born out of having no choice. Reasons are just a means to shirk responsibility. They're all just rubbish. Only ability is the best reason, the right reason. He looked steadily at the 14th young master and said slowly, and you have this true reason in your grasp. Because things like despicableness and shamelessness are not the real reason that they should die. The true reason is your strength. And just your strength. The 14th young master laughed wildly and smiled. Well said. Truly well said. Because of those words of yours, this one will not do anything to you all today. I guess I can let them live a few more days. And allow me some more time to prepare a little. And coordinate a bit. Ha ha ha. Having been lectured by the two of them, he actually wasn't angered at the slightest. However, Cheng Yin Xiao and Chu Wu Hui's heart sunk in an instant. With the 14th young master's skills, what would he still need to prepare? Who did he need to coordinate with? That was a huge question. But after exchanging a look, the two did not continue asking. Because they knew that this 14th young master would definitely not tell them anything more. They could only be more careful from here on. 14th young master, I'd like to ask you one more thing. Cheng Yin Zhao's eyes grew heated. The only reason such an intense situation had occurred was all for the sake of asking this question, because it was extremely important for him. Who was that person just now? Cheng Yin Xiao took a step forward and his eyes fell on the tree again as he asked. That person who was here just now, who was it? The moment this question came out, everyone perked their ears with interest. All of them had been relatively far away at the time, and only the 14th young master was the closest. Although the rest of them hadn't managed to see anything, but from the 14th young master's position, and with his skills, he must have seen something. Regrettably, I have no idea as well. A strange look appeared in the 14th young master's eyes as he said this, seemingly fearful, and admiring at the same time as he continued lightly. I've indeed watched for a long time. But I didn't see even a shadow of a person at all. From the start to the end, the lightning had simply been striking this tree, and then disappearing. He laughed bitterly and shook his head. When I came here earlier, I tested my strength on this tree and actually blasted through it. As he said that, he waved his sleeves and dust flew everywhere. A large hole could be seen on the trunk of the tree. Everyone's suspicion were cleared in an instant. However, the doubts and confusion in their minds had instead thickened. Just who was it? No matter who it is, that person is most definitely a peerless expert of this world. Even this young master has no choice but to admit inferiority. The 9 Nether 14th young master sighed with some disappointment. Cheng Yin Xiao and Chu Wuhui both understood very clearly what this sigh of the 9 Nether 14th young master meant. All along, everyone had acknowledged that the 9 Nether 14th young master was the #1 expert of this world. Even the 9 Nether 14th young master himself also felt so. Nobody thought of it as being arrogant. Since there was never a person who could defeat the 9 Nether 14th young master, this had already become an undeniable fact. So against the 9 Nether 14th young master, people could only ever fight in with great numbers. Moreover, it wasn't just 1 or 2 people joining hands. Now that someone like that had appeared, even the 9 Nether 14th young master felt incredibly inferior in comparison. Just the scene of the huge lightning tribulation was enough to drag him down from his prized seat as #1 in the world. Who could imagine what kind of depressed feelings the 9 Nether 14th young master was holding right now? I'm confident of enduring that lightning tribulation just now as well, the 9 Nether 14th young master said heavily. However, I can't do it like that person, not ever. Swallowing the lightning tribulation. The 9 Nether 14th young master added these 4 words to the sentence in his heart. Cheng Yin Xiao and Chu Wuhui exchanged a glance, feeling somewhat lost. The 9 Nether 14th young master thought for a moment and suddenly asked, "You asked me a question, and I've answered. Now, I shall ask you a question too, and you shall answer me." His eyes grew fierce, like a pair of sharp swords that sliced through the night air. "What is it? As long as I know about it, I will definitely reply honestly." Chu Wuhui could hear the dangerous tone in the 9 Nether 14th young master's voice, and instantly knew that this question was most likely not easy to answer. His heart turned heavy as a result as well. This question was actually something that could rile up the 9 Nether 14th young master's anger. Just this point alone meant that it was definitely not a simple question. 9 Firmament First Old Master, who came up with this name? Whose idea was it? The 9 Nether 14th young master gritted his teeth as he asked, the ferocious glint in his eyes growing ever more intense. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 890. Evil Monarch. 9 Firmament First Old Master. Cheng Yin Xiao and Chu Wuhui looked at each other in confusion. It was the first time they'd ever heard of such a strange name. Although the two of them had several hundred years of experience and recognized that this strange name was directly opposed to the 9 Nether young masters, they couldn't identify the machinations of its implication on the spot and were all stumped. Just who was it that came up with this name? Answer me. The 9 Nether 14th young master completely disdained Zhan Mu Bai and the other Saint Emperors, but he still trusted the people from the higher-ranked Heaven Saint Palace. Because in Cheng Yin Xiao and Chu Wu Hui's realm, they were already the absolute peak characters of the world. They wouldn't possibly lie, and even disdained the act of lying. Whether it was them being lied to, or to the 9 Nether 14th young master. Who is this 9 Firmament First Old Master? Have you all heard of it before? Cheng Yin Xiao looked the crowd with confusion. Although he'd already managed to guess that there must be a strange reason for the 14th young master to suddenly ask about this name. But he'd been secluded away from the world for too long, and thus turned to ask his subordinates. Ha ha ha. 9 Firmament First Old Master. That name is indeed not bad. Jun Moxie laughed aloud. At this point, he'd already thrown away all his inhibitions completely. A moment ago, the 14th young master had already stated very clearly that he definitely wouldn't let him go. Besides, he had the 3 great experts of the Heaven Saint Palace here, Qiao Ying, Chengyin Xiao, and Chu Wu Hui. Even if the 14th young master blew up on the spot. Although their chances of victory were not high, it should still be possible for them to protect themselves. So right now, Jun Moxie was completely carefree. He snorted mockingly. 9 Firmament First Old Master. What a good name, ah! It's truly very compatible with the 14th young master. Simply too compatible. Is it very compatible? Tell me then, in what ways is it compatible? The 14th young master asked in an icy manner. One is the 9 firmaments. The other is the 9 nethers, the former is high up in the sky, being termed as being the sky above the sky, while the latter is in the depths of hell, beneath the earth. Jun Moxie chuckled lightly. It's very symmetrical. Then, one side is first, while the other is 14th, no matter how small the seniority is between the two, it's in direct contrast to each other. Finally, one is actually a young master, while the other is an old master. Haha. Jun Moxie laughed madly, tears nearly flowing out of his eyes as he rocked forward and backwards. Young master carries the connotation of the junior generation, while old master refers to the ancestral generation. There's quite a few levels of seniority in between them. That's at least 3 generations, I reckon. But that's pretty little, I suppose. Compared to the distance between the heavens and hell, between the numbers 1 and 14, the gap is much lesser. It's a huge improvement, ah. Ha ha ha. Oh my. It's too funny. All of a sudden. Pa! A crisp sound rang out as a ruthless slap smacked across the side of Jun Moxie's face. This slap was so fierce that his entire body tottered, and his sense of gravity was shifted, causing him to stumble sideways several steps. Following that, another slap whizzed across the other side of his face, smacking his balance back again. Although Chu Wu Hui and the rest had already prepared themselves to step in, they still failed to stop the 14th young master's movements. They could only watch as he gave Jun Moxie slap after slap, unable to react. Such a speed could be said to be unrivaled under the heavens. Jun Moxie was just about to roar with rage when he felt his throat being gripped tightly by a large hand, lifting his entire body up. His feet dangled helplessly in the air, and at the same time, a copious amount of powerful energy, cold and dark, seeped into his meridians like the claws of a ghost, instantly gaining control over his veins and extending towards his dantian. His entire body of cultivation was completely taken over. At the same time, all the control over the movements in his body was completely wrested away. In just the blink of an eye, Jun Moxie fell from the lofty position of a saint emperor to a position where he could not even control his own life and death. 14th young master. Please stop. We can talk things over. Chengyin Xiao and Chu Wu Hui both rushed forward at the same time. The two of them had already felt quite shocked that they hadn't been able to stop him at first. Seeing how he was able to use such amazing methods, controlling the movements of a third-level Saint Emperor in an instant, they could not help but feel their hearts skip a beat. Stop! Whoever dares to take another step forward, And I swear I'll wash the 3 holy lands in blood. The 9 nether 14th young master furrowed his brows and chuckled coldly. With a wave of his hand, he easily tore the space behind him into 2. Just like that, he'd created a forbidden zone, while he and Jun Moxie had already stepped into another space. Cheng Yin Xiao and Chu Wuhui were less than half a zhang away from the 9 nether 14th young master. As long as they stretched out their hands, they could touch the 9 nether 14th young master's body. But this half a zhang of distance had become the distance between the heavens and the earth. The true meaning of a short distance away, and yet poles apart. With a flick of a finder, shattering the void. This was not a story, and legends were not all nonsense. At this moment, it was happening before everyone's eyes. Cheng Yin Xiao and Chu Wuhui both sucked in a cold breath of air. Just judging by this ability, the 9 nether 14th young master's skills had recuperated to at least over 80%. A 9 nether 14th young master that had recovered 80% of his strength was already not something that the 2 of them could resist. If the 2 of them joined hands, it wasn't a difficult thing to break through this 9 nether 14th young master's space barrier. But at the very least, it would still take them the time for half a pot of tea to boil. The time needed for half a pot of tea might not seem like long, but in this scenario, even the time taken to blink an eye was too much. By the time it took half a cup of tea to boil, everything would have concluded. Moreover, if the 2 of them really went over, then, regardless of whether they made it in time, the matter about washing the 3 holy lands in blood that the 9 nether 14th young master spoke about would turn into reality. With the 9 nether 14th young master's strength, he definitely could do it. This was a pure lunatic. In the heavens or on earth, there was nothing that he didn't dare to do. Although it was a Nike'd challenge, weren't the 2 of them completely helpless? They could only submit. The both of them stopped their actions immediately. Brother 14th, have mercy now, is not the time for you to kill Jun Moxie. I never said that I was going to kill him. At least, not now. The 9 nether 14th young master said somewhat blandly. I just want to ask him a few things. Don't worry, with the 3 of you here, even if I want to kill someone, I would kill just the 3 of you only. Why should I lower my status to deal with such a lowly dog? With how he is, this fellow is still far from deserving a death by my hands. The 9 nether 14th young master lifted Jun Moxie up by the neck, and stared at him coldly. Little bastard. You know this 9 firmament first old master? With his Saint Emperor cultivation, what kind of existence was Jun Moxie? But before the 9 nether 14th young master, he did not even have the strength to resist. He was like a little child, swung about helplessly in the hands of an adult. Furthermore, he had to endure the shame of being abused verbally with every sentence. One could easily imagine the humiliation he was going through. At this point, he'd already realized that his guesses had been completely wrong. The 9 nether 14th young master had already recovered. Originally, he thought that the 9 nether 14th young master's internal injuries were still not healed, and he wanted to make use of the opportunity to irritate him with his words, disturbing his state of mind. Then, with the 3 guardians here, they could attack him together. This was a heavenly opportunity. However, the 3 guardians completely did not stop the 9 nether 14th young master. In an instant, his heart turned as cold as ice. In the face of such circumstances, Jun Moxie was actually able to steady his heart. His chest heaving with great difficulty, he laughed coldly. 9 firmament first old master. I don't know this name. But even if I knew, I would not tell you. A crazed look flashed in Jun Moxie's eyes. After being controlled like that, All his face and reputation had been thoroughly destroyed. At this point, he no longer cared much about life or death. However, he could tell that the 9 Nether 14th young master cared very much about this 9 Firmament First Old Master. From the name alone, it was easy to see that the name 9 Firmament First Old Master was a natural counter to the 9 Nether 14th young master. This name was undoubtedly a thorn in the heart of the 9 Nether 14th young master's heart. How could Jun Moxie possibly let a chance to dig at the wounds of his opponent go? Even if I can't beat you in a fight, I still know how to irritate you to death. In any case, I've already lost all hopes for living. Why should I let you live happily? Before I die, I must do my best to piss you off a few more times. Good. You have guts. The 9 Nether 14th young master tightened his grip, and a large amount of scorching chi burrowed into Jun Moxie's meridians. Jun Moxie suddenly felt as if his blood was boiling, and even his brains were about to be fried. This was an unimaginable pain. Even the most cruel torture in the world was only as such. Jun Moxie was unable to endure any further. With a wretched screech, he fainted like a clump of cotton. But in the next instant, the scorching chi turned into bone-freezing chilling chi, directly shocking him awake. His mind was incomparably clear, but his body was nearly frozen. The blood that had been boiling a moment ago quickly dipped to the point of freezing. A layer of white frost could be seen forming on Jun Moxie's body with a speed visible to the naked eye. I just want to know how the name 9 Firmament First Old Master came to be. The 9 Nether 14th young master looked at him coldly. Spit it out, and I will let you go. Since the world has a 9 Nether 14th young master, there would naturally be a 9 Firmament First Old Master. Jun Moxie coughed and spluttered. Faint blood trails ran along the side of his mouth, freezing into icicles. However, he still managed to smile venomously. It's that simple. The 9 Nether 14th young master's expression stiffened, and his aura burst out once again. In an instant, Jun Moxie's blood turned into liquid again, quickly boiling once again. After that, it turned from boiling to cold, repeating the process at least a dozen times. Jun Moxie suffered with agony as the ice and fire torture continued. Boiled to the verge of death, he was revived again only to be scorched further. He was so overwhelmed with pain that he wished for death. At the end, he didn't even have the energy to scream anymore. I've said before I kill the 3 guardians, I will not kill you. Relax. I will definitely not go back on my words. The 9 Nether 14th young master said with a cold smile. However, I will still collect this bit of interest first. While you get to live, you will live a life worse than death. He roared with laughter. However, it's still worthy of being cherished. Although you get to live, it's only for this last night. Enjoy it. Following that, the 9 Nether 14th young master flung his hand, throwing Jun Moxie's body out to the crowd from the 3 holy lands as if he were discarding a rag doll. Hai Wuya hurriedly rushed up to catch him. But at the instant he caught Jun Moxie's body, his body shook heavily, as if 10,000 hammers had smashed across his chest. Unable to endure, he stumbled backwards repeatedly for over 10 steps, creating a huge pit under his feet. Large cracks extended out from the pit. When he finally managed to steady himself, his face had turned completely pale. Then, with a flush of red, he coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood. The 9 Nether 14th young master took one step out, his black figure soaring high into the sky. At the same time, his voice rang out loudly. Heart Seal Sky Sword Cheng Yin Xiao. Willful Wild Saber Chu Wu Hui. all-seeing Rakshasa Qiao Ying. Come and have a fight with this young master. His black figure flashed in the sky, and thousands of the 9 nether 14th young masters' afterimages appeared in the sky, illusory and ethereal. However, the 9 nether 14th young master was already gone. The 3 guardians exchanged a glance and laughed. Since 14th young master is so excited, the 3 of us will naturally spare some time to accompany you. The 3 did not fear anything at all as their bodies flashed and disappeared, chasing after the 9 nether 14th young master. The 9 nether 14th young master did not continue pursuing the matter about the 9 firmament first old master. Instead, he directly issued his challenge. His intentions were very clear. I'll defeat the 3 of you first, before coming back to finish Jun Moxie off. No matter what, he was unwilling to let Jun Moxie continue living. As for the matter with the 9 firmament first old master, he could tell that these people truly did not know anything. Although Jun Moxie had used this name to attack him, but the 9 nether 14th young master knew that if the latter truly knew about such a person, his words would definitely be even more ugly than this. It looked like he would need to investigate properly after today's matter ends. If he truly couldn't find anything, he would directly find that 9 firmament first old master and ask him personally. As for Cheng Yin Xiao, Chu Wu Hui, and Xiao Ying, they were quite helpless in the matter. The 9 nether 14th young master had already issued them a challenge in his rage. With their positions, even if they knew they couldn't beat their enemy, even if they knew that they might die, they had no choice but to accept. Besides that, there was still the matter about Jun Moxie's suffering. No matter what, he was someone who belonged to the Holy Lands. To be tortured like that, they needed to at least get some justice for him. Whether they could obtain that justice was one matter, but whether they at least tried was another matter altogether. Otherwise, the great name of the 3 Holy Lands would be destroyed entirely today. Thus, the 3 of them did not have a choice. For shadows flashed like shooting stars across the night sky, disappearing quickly to an unknown location. As for the experts of the 3 Holy Lands, when they saw the wretched state of Jun Moxie, all of them were seething with anger. The 9 nether 14th young master actually humiliated a saint emperor in the midst of the crowd to that extent. To do that in front of so many peak experts was the equivalent of slapping the 3 Holy Lands roughly across the face. If he hadn't left, even though they knew that they wouldn't win, the crowd would still attack en masse, using their lives to regain the pride of the Holy Lands. Just at this time, when the crowd was still boiling with anger, a loud scream rang out, causing everyone's eyes to widen with disbelief. The scene before their eyes was too shocking. An even more unbelievable scene appeared before everyone's eyes. About 1 zhang in front of the crowd, a huge, dirty earthen wall was suddenly rising out of the ground, blocking the wide street. From nothing to something, this wall had appeared from seemingly nowhere. It was as if this wall had suddenly come alive, growing without limits. The wall grew taller and taller slowly, and the side facing the people had become as smooth as a stone monument. Finally, it stopped when it was 5 zhang tall and approximately 3 zhang wide. As the crowd watched with dumbfounded eyes, some new transformations appeared on the wide wall. Several words appeared, their strokes bold and swift as if dragons and phoenixes were dancing. It was as if an invisible ghost was riding atop it. At the very top, 2 words appeared. Although the words looked light, swift like dragons and phoenixes dancing, they seemed to be as heavy as mountains, striking into the hearts of the crowd like lightning, piercing deeply into their hearts and eyes. 2 extremely arrogant and bold words. Evil Monarch. This story will be continued to chapter 891. For those of you who are not subscribed yet, please subscribe. The interesting and best stories will be updated. See you again in the next episode.